everyone, and welcome to another episode of BioLogic Science News. There's been some pretty cool news that came out recently. News about a potential treatment for breast cancer. The results were published in a study conducted by researchers from the University of Manchester, the University Hospital of South Manchester, and the Institute of Cancer Research London. Their research looked at a particular subgroup of women with breast cancer. Of women with cancer, about 15 to 30% have a particularly aggressive type called HER2 positive breast cancer. In these women, they possess an HER2 gene, or a HER2 gene, that gets overexpressed. That is to say that the gene gets transcribed more often than it should, and the resulting protein exists too often, or at too high of a concentration in the cells. The overexpression of this gene can suppress the expression of other genes, and thus HER2 gets associated with all kinds of other cancers, like cancers of the stomach, the uterus, or the ovaries. Patients with an HER2 cancer often take a medicine called trastuzumab, which has to be taken for over a year alongside chemotherapy, or they can take a medicine called lapatinib, which is typically used in combination with other drugs. Chemotherapy itself is brutal. As a treatment, it's indiscriminate. Chemo kills cancer cells, but it also kills healthy cells, which is why people's hair falls out and they have to supplement the chemo with pain pills and anti-nausea medications. Chemo is slow and painful, and it isn't even a perfectly reliable treatment either. It's just a really rough thing to have to go through. In 2012, there was a study testing the efficacy of trastuzumab and lapatinib on their own, and then also in combination to treat HER2 positive breast cancer. The study followed over 450 patients, split into 3 groups of about 150 people each, and they tracked the growth of their tumors in response to the drug treatments that each person was given. One group was assigned just trastuzumab, and another was assigned just lapatinib, while a third group was assigned both drugs as their treatment plan. The patients were observed for 18 weeks, or for about 4 months before surgery, during which time various measurements and scans were taken to track their progress. This 5-year-old study found that a combination treatment with both drugs was significantly more effective than either drug by itself. More than half of the people who took both drugs experienced total suppression of their cancer, called pathological complete response, or PCR, while those who took just one drug had rates around 23% to 30%. The study I want to tell you about today is very similar to this older study. The Manchester researchers had 3 groups in their study. The control, which received no specialized pre-surgery treatment, a group assigned trastuzumab, and a group assigned both trastuzumab and lapatinib. Their results showed a stark difference in treatment efficacy, much like the previous study. The researchers observed that the control group, the group that received no specialized treatment, had pretty terrible progress. None of their cancers were suppressed during the entire observation period. The group that had just one drug, the trastuzumab, had some progress, with about 3% of the patients progressing to a state called MRD, or minimal residual disease, where the cancer is still present, but its concentration, its activity, the threat it poses, all have been greatly reduced. Most impressively, though, they found that 28% of the group that received combination therapy showed significant improvement. 17% had MRD, or minimal residual disease, and another 11% had PCR, or pathological complete response, the complete suppression of their cancer. Okay, so you might be thinking, those numbers aren't very big. 3%? 11%? That's really not that much, right? Well, here's the catch. In the 2012 study, they observed their patients over an 18-week period, or more than 4 months. In the recent study, they observed their patients for 11 days. 11 days. That's less than 2 weeks, which is insane. That's ridiculously fast-acting. It took the 2012 study 4 months to see a complete response in about half the people who took both drugs. This study recorded 11% in as many days. If they had watched their patients for 18 weeks like the 2012 study, and assuming the rate of progress stayed the same, they might have seen a cure rate above 90%. That kind of progress is incredible. It's mind-blowing, especially for a cancer treatment. Because cancer typically requires months of chemotherapy to kill, and medication to help handle the chemo, and because those medications are often really hard on your body, you need medications to help with those medications. Because of all that, cancer treatment is a brutal and painful process. For many, it doesn't even save them, and they spend their last months on this earth in pain and discomfort. That's why studies like these are so amazing, because they show the efficacy of various medicines to stop cancer without chemo, without suffering for months hoping that more cancer cells are dying than healthy ones. This kind of news should bring hope to those who suffer from or have a loved one suffering from an HER2 breast cancer.